I am vengeance. I am the night. I am
Batman! Ah, yes. You know, after my Sherlock Holmes three-parter omnibus I did, it kind of got me thinking about what if we had Batman living in the same era just like Sherlock Holmes. And when, after my birthday present, not Christmas, birthday, I had to correct that, with the Sherlock Holmes omnibus, I went to a flea market over at Friendship, Indiana, and they had a lot of really good stuff. I mean, really, really awesome stuff here. And I come across this comic book, which pretty much answered my questions about Batman living in the Victorian era, which in America would be the Western era. And what I have here is, of course, A Tale of Batman Gotham by Gaslight. Now, I heard about the animated movie based from it. Well, I'm going to talk about that after I'm done with this comic book here. And let's see how would the Dark Knight himself get involved in the Victorian era in Gotham. From Hell. Oh. Yeah, that's right. On this one, Batman gets involved with Jack the Ripper. Now, and of course I've heard that whole From Hell thing. I mean, it did kind of remind me over Alan Moore's comic book adaptation of From Hell, which was his theory about Jack the Ripper. And I remember the movie adaptation, and the movie was terrible. Just straight up terrible. And I remember that Alan Moore, he makes his own stories and his own comics, but one thing he does hate is that Hollywood always takes his stories and make a movie adaptation about it, and they changed a lot to it. And ever since they gave him credit for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and he knew how bad League of Extraordinary Gentlemen went, that's when he decided that every single movie based from his comics, he will not be credited. He doesn't want his name on the credit. And I do have League of Extraordinary Gentlemen comic book, so maybe one of these days I'll talk about the movie and then talk about the comic itself. But of course, this is not Alan Moore. This is somebody else's comic, so let's see how we're going to deal with here. First starts out where there is Thomas Wayne and his wife Martha on a coach. And all of a sudden, this man with 2 pistols shows up. This long bearded man here with 2 pistols. Thomas and Martha Wayne got out of the carriage, and he was aiming his gun at Martha Wayne. But sadly, Thomas Wayne got in the way, and he fired his gun at Thomas. And then after that, he finally fired Martha. And when he saw little young Bruce Wayne showed up, a group of bats showed up and just distracted the gunman and took off. Now in Vienna, is it Vienna? In Vienna, 1889. Here it shows Bruce Wayne, that's Bruce Wayne right here, and he's talking to his therapist, his doctor, which I can tell that his appearance, he's supposed to be Sigmund Freud. I just hope Sigmund Freud ain't gonna be asking Bruce Wayne about his mommy issues. That was one thing I remember in history, that Sigmund Freud, he might be the best therapist in history, but he did seem to have like a mommy issue, and also think that it's healthy to be dominating. I mean, having a woman who can be a dominatrix towards a guy. I mean, it's just one of those weirdest thing ever. But anyway, after Bruce Wayne was done with his therapy with Dr. Freud, he took a ship, taking him back to America in Gotham. And he starts cruising. He shows up in a party and sees a lot of odd and shady people around. Until he finally showed up in Gotham. And there he finally meets his butler, Ingrid? Oh no, Alfred. Here is his butler, Alfred, on this one. He went all the way to the Wayne house, and he found a bat costume, which it turns out it was the one he made. So it's time for him to suit up and start fighting crime when the night goes out. And then he has to go over to see his inspector. His inspector is, of course, Inspector Gordon. And I see what they done here. They made Gordon look like Theodore Roosevelt.
Haha.
But anyway, Bruce Wayne had a talk with Inspector Gordon, seeing what Gotham's been doing since he was gone. And of course, he also found a wanted poster about a shady-looking criminal who looks like this. Could that be their version of the Joker? Meanwhile, at night, in the shady side of the city in Gotham, there's a group of bad guys who's about ready to rob a certain safe, and Batman showed up and took out a bunch of bad guys, and even saved the conductor, and tell the cops what was going on. And now everybody's doing newspapers, spreading rumors about the Batman attacking the criminals, bringing justice in the city. And then when Bruce Wayne, showing up in his casual outfit, he shows up to the ball with a date in his arm, and just mingled around Inspector Gordon and other people around the town. And then all of a sudden, a next victim showed up. It turns out that Jack the Ripper left England and ended up in America and killed his newest victim. So it looks like Jack the Ripper struck again. And of course, there is this commissioner who goes by the name of Commissioner Trolliver. Trolliver? Air conditioner. And Batman, he starts being out at night, looking up and down the streets. Until all of a sudden he heard a scream. So he ran towards where the scream was at, until it stopped, and the killer says, "Hush now, my pretty." His next victim. And Batman showed up, and the killer and Jack was like, "Damn!" And he just left. Train coming. Give me a sec. Still passing by, but it ain't that noisy, so continue on. And all of a sudden, this commissioner has a sneaking suspicion that it was Bruce Wayne who was Jack the Ripper, because it was kind of odd that these killings happened when Bruce Wayne showed up. So they investigated his mansion, look up and down the street, until all of a sudden, looking up and down the mansion, then all of a sudden they found a knife covered in blood. Somebody planted that in his mansion. So they have arrested him. They give him a courtroom, saying that and even the newspaper saying that billionaire Bruce Wayne is the killer. He's Jack the Ripper. Now, Inspector Gordon, he still doesn't believe that Bruce Wayne is Jack the Ripper, but he was showing him all the pictures on McKay's files. But looks like that Bruce Wayne is getting lucky this time, because another night, another prostitute is going to get killed off. Now, Bruce Wayne started to realize something, that the knife that the killer was using, it had a symbol of an A on it, and it's the same A as on the flag where his dad was a part of. I mean, that knife belonged to his dad. And the only person he knows who has that knife is somebody that his father once knew, and even he himself knew. So now, Bruce Wayne figured out who Jack the Ripper was. And since another killing of another prostitute has happened, Bruce Wayne had finally got released, and even apologized for what they did. So now Bruce Wayne got himself all suited up, and he finally found Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper says, "Oh my God!" And then he ran while Bruce Wayne was chasing after him. Jack always kept yelling, "No, no, no, leave me alone!" But Batman is telling him, and he even threw a 2x4 right in his face. But Batman, he's like, I'm mad. And he's still... And of course, Jack the Ripper hopped on a buggy and took off. But of course, Batman hopped on his horse and chased after him until he finally tackled him down, saying it's over. And Batman figured out who Jack the Ripper was. It was his uncle named Jacob Packer. And he asked him, "Why, Packer? Why all those women?" And he says, "I had to shut them up. Shut her up. Stop her laughter." And he says, Whose laughter?" "Martha Wayne." So one thing that he remembers is Martha Wayne laughing at him. Oh, so it turned out he loved Martha, but she chose Thomas Wayne instead of Jacob. And when he told her that he loved her, she laughed at him. And he just couldn't take that line down, and he couldn't believe that she got pregnant and had a son. So Packer said, "She still say it. She says it every night. She followed me everywhere. Europe, London, Whitechapel, laughing. Then after I hired a man to kill her good. The kid got away that night, but I fixed him. And before he could start laughing too." But of course, Batman says, "Packer, I'm not laughing." And Batman removed his mask, revealing himself as Bruce Wayne. And Packer says, "Bruce, but Bruce didn't know Bruce." Batman says, "You killed my parents. You killed those women. And you and your framed me for your crimes. Now, I should kill you." And Packer says, Yes, kill me," until they get interrupted by Inspector Gordon. Inspector Gordon yelled out, "Stop!" And they were going after them. And Batman told the inspector, "This man is your Reaper, Gordon. The man who really slaughtered those poor women. His name is Jacob Packer." And of course, Inspector Gordon says, "What? And just who are you?" Batman says, "It doesn't matter. This is your killer. Arrest him." But of course, Packer wouldn't come peacefully. So he pulled out a knife and he slit Batman right across his chest. And of course, Inspector Gordon shot him. And Batman says, "Thank you, Inspector." And Inspector says, "You? What was this all about? What is this all about? What was he killing all those women?" And Batman says, "Who truly understands the action of a madman, Inspector?" And he also told him to release Bruce Wayne. And of course, Inspector says, "Yes, but you?" And Batman says, "I'm leaving." And then he disappears. And that is the end of Batman by Gaslight. Now, this comic is really good. I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, the first time I read it, it was a really awesome and interesting story I ever even read in my life. I mean, not many people never had the opportunity to make a steampunk version, Victorian era version of Batman before. And this was a pretty good one. Now, even though this was a made-up story, it has nothing to do with the real killer in large. Although, I do have my own theory, but I can't say it because there might be kids listening to this. And I know some of you are going to be asking me, what about the movie adaptation, the animated movie? Yeah, it's good, but I have a big problem. I mean, it was bad enough when they did The Man Who Laughed, where Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, had an affair with Batman. I mean, that was the stupidest thing they put in that animated movie, and it was never in the comic books. Why put it in the anime? But they really screwed it up on the animated version based on this, because the biggest difference between this comic and the animated version, in the animated version, there was no Selina Kyle, no Harvey Dent, no Poison Ivy, and to make things worse, they made Gordon Jack the Ripper. Yeah, I'm not kidding. And I hated that twist. I hated that premise. I didn't want Gordon to be Jack the Ripper. Stick to the damn comic, will ya? Where it's Jacob Packer. Jacob Packer is Jack the Ripper, not Inspector Gordon, for God's sakes. But there was another thing I also heard that they made. They were planning to make a video game adaptation of this. But sadly, it was never finished, even though there is a prototype that you can download and play yourself, but it's not exactly completely finished. So, too bad. I would enjoy playing Batman in the Victorian era. But of course, in those Arkham games, I'm sure you can download the Gotham by Gaslight look in the Arkham games. So, this is my review of Batman Gotham by Gaslight. And for those of you who likes this story, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe for more reviews. And it's not over yet, because sometimes some people are kind of wondering, what if Superman was Batman? Well, I found something that I thought I'd never find, but I finally found it. So pretty much, my next review is going to become Superman Speeding Bullet. In this one, Kal-El, aka Clark Kent, well now he's going, in this story, Kal-El is going to be Bruce Wayne, and the death of his parents is going to make him become Batman. So, stay tuned for this issue. And why I'm doing this? Because I'm Batman! I'm the multi-voice reviewer. I remember it so I can jog your memory.